What's going on, Giants fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video, and the season has ended for Big Blue. It is Black Monday, and there's a lot going on. Today was supposed to be more of a recap on the Philadelphia Eagles game, but the Giants have fired more assistants than I thought they would. But before we get too far into that, folks, if you like what you watch, make sure to check us out on all our social media platforms on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Big Blue Avenue, where we'll have all off-season content for your New York football Giants, trying to give you the best behind-the-scenes, firsthand knowledge that you can get on the New York Giants heading into the 2024 season. But before we get into the off-season, let's quickly dive into the Giants and their outstanding Week 18 performance, upsetting the Philadelphia Eagles 27-10, a game that a lot of people thought they could win, but the Giants ended things early, winning their first game against the Eagles since 2021. It's been over 2 years. They split in 2021. They got swept in 3 games last year, including the playoff game and the first one this season. So the Giants had lost 5 in a row against their much-hated rivals. And the Giants win. Eagles quit at halftime. Look, ending the season on a high note is critical, especially for a team that finished 6-11 on the year. This team never quit on Brian Daboll. Sterling Shepard, likely his last NFL game. The Giants had a lot to play for in this game. Shep went out on a high note, having a couple of catches. I know one of them was called back due to a penalty, but Sterling Shepard moves in to the top 5 Giants reception leaders all time. So shout out Sterling Shepard, who was on the team for 8 years. Again, nothing has officially been broken yet with him, but he is now the 5th all-time leading Giants receiver as far as receptions go. He surpassed former Giants tight end Jeremy Shockey. Shepard, nothing but a class act. Much appreciative of him. I'll talk about him more on the show this Wednesday evening when we recap Philadelphia. But, Sterling Shepard, awesome player. Going to miss him. Saquon Barkley with 2 touchdowns in this game. His future very uncertain. We're not sure if the Giants will exercise another tag, extend him, or let him test the market. I thought Mike Kafka had a very balanced game plan in this game. Got the most out of Tyrod Taylor. I was happy to see it. Wandale had 85 receiving yards. Darius Slayton caught another touchdown. Awful defensive game plan by Matt Patricia and Sean Desai. Philadelphia is in turmoil right now, and it starts up top with Nick Sirianni. There's a lot that team has to do. Yes, they're heading to the playoffs, but they'll have to fight off the Bucs in Tampa next week. They couldn't survive the Giants on the road, so they're going to have their hands full down in Tampa. But anyway, losing A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts definitely opened the can of worms, and the Giants took advantage. Their defense was phenomenal, led by guys like Bobby Okereke, who had a sack in this game. Also had a nice pass breakup, as did Micah McFadden. He had a pass breakup and a fumble recovery. Those 2 linebackers were phenomenal all season long. We know Jalen Hurts had the injured middle finger. He left the game before the half was over, replaced by Marcus Mariota. And when Mariota came into the game, Xavier McKinney immediately picked off his first pass attempt, which was a screen to the left. X did a nice job reading that play like an open book. Losing A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts really hurt the Eagles yesterday. I thought Nick McLeod was solid. He had that forced fumble. He started in place of Deonte Banks. Defensively this year, the Giants finished the season with at least 1 takeaway in their final 8 games. And I was happy to see Azeez get in on the action. He had 2 sacks on Sunday. Jihad Ward hit an incentive, getting a strip sack, finishing with 5 on the year, which is a lot for Jihad Ward. That might even be a new career high for him. But Giants defensively, 5 sacks, 2 picks, 2 forced fumbles. The 6th time this season they allowed 20 points or less. Shout out to the Giants for beating the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, it feels so damn good to beat this football team, for sure. Moving on to some coaching staff changes. There was an early presser this morning with Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. At that time, they fired offensive line coach Bobby Johnson and special teams coordinator Thomas McGaughey. Thomas McGaughey was with the team for 6 seasons. He survived 3 head coaching changes. Definitely very sour ending for him. This was a special teams unit this year that really struggled at times until they signed Gunnar Olszewski as a kick and punt returner. He had that nice touchdown in week 17. Giants went through 4 different kickers this season, and that's never a good thing. McGaughey was towards the top half of the league in special teams with the Giants his first 4 seasons, but the last 2 have really, really struggled, and a lot of people thought it was time to move on, and I do agree with that decision. Although I do sort of thank him because he wasn't awful, but definitely time to move on from him. Bobby Johnson is the one I'm not going to miss at all, not even a little bit. He coached an offensive line this year that was historically bad. It allowed 85 total sacks, and that's 20 more than any other team in the NFL allowed. Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, Tommy DeVito, anyone who played quarterback this year took more than enough hits, a lot of unnecessary ones too. And this was an O-line that has 3 very high draft picks on the roster. You have 2 first-rounders that are supposed to be bookend tackles in Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal. Thomas he got the big contract extension in the offseason, great for him. But Evan Neal has looked like Swiss cheese in his first 2 years. Unfortunately for him, he had a concussion early on in the year. He never fully recovered from that. We know about the hamburger flipping comment that he made, later apologized, but it was an awful year for the Giants offensive line. I thought John Michael Schmitz had a disappointing rookie year. I know he was hurt for a significant portion of the season, but he has excellent character. I think he'll have a much better second season. Really, the only player that was a mainstay on the O-line this year was Ben Bredesen, who started 8 games at, I think it was right guard. He started week 18 at center for John Michael Schmitz, who missed the game due to a shoulder injury. And then Bredesen also spent some time at left guard to begin the season before eventually the Giants benched Mark Lewinsky, and then Justin Pugh came along. The Giants had to sign Justin Pugh straight off the couch. It was a putrid season for the Giants offensive line. But back to Bredesen for a moment. Kudos to him. Contract year. Logged 1,014 snaps, the most by any New York Giants offensive player. Ben Bredesen, in my opinion, is an above-average guard at the NFL level. I would like to see the Giants re-sign him this offseason, even if it's to a short-term deal, just to help the younger players get their feet wet a little bit and maintain some continuity while upgrading maybe at that right guard position. I would like to see Ben back as the starting left guard next season. Another move, this one was more shocking. The Giants fired 2 assistants today, Drew Wilkins, the outside linebacker coach, and his brother, Kevin Wilkins, a defensive assistant. Drew Wilkins came along with Wink Martindale from Baltimore in 2022, and Wink has resigned. I don't think it was a knee-jerk reaction to this move. I mean, again, one can speculate, but we know Jay Glazer reported earlier in the season that the writing was on the wall between Giants head coach Brian Daboll and DC Wink Martindale. Martindale came in the 2022 offseason after getting let go by the Ravens. He put together a really good defense the last 2 years. This year it struggled at times, but it struggled for a lot more reasons than one may think. You can't just look at statistics and numbers. If you watch the games, you really know what the issue with the team this year was. It was the offense and it was the special teams. The defense really didn't lose the Giants any games, quite frankly. We know Wink Martindale has a polarizing personality, but he's a well-respected coach by the players. It's sad to see him go. I mean, I'm heartbroken. I loved Wink Martindale, but I do think there was a bit of a feud between Wink and Brian Daboll. The defense ranked 27th in the NFL this past season, but at the same time, they did tie for a league best 31 takeaways. Now, Daboll mentioned earlier this morning that Wink and Kafka were both expected back, but again, maybe Daboll went in saying, yeah, we want to fire the Wilkins brothers, who have been assistants for Wink Martindale forever now. Those are his guys, especially Drew. And yes, the edge rusher room struggled this year outside of Kayvon Thibodeau. But to be fair, the Giants didn't have much depth. Azeez Ojulari was never healthy. Jihad Ward is on the back end of his career. And Boogie Basham was a non-factor. He was getting inactive, healthy scratches for Benton Whitley, which is a problem. They brought in Isaiah Simmons, who was a good factor, beautiful part of Wink's scheme. And now the fact that Wink resigns, I just think it was a mutual parting of ways. It really wasn't anyone's fault. Again, we don't know the full story, guys, but it just sucks that, Daboll said what he did this morning about Wink. It is definitely eye-popping that Martindale resigns. Maybe, Daboll is hard to work with. I don't know. But it's definitely, it brings a lot of questions. Very aggressive defensive coordinator. But do got some news here. This is sort of a quote saying, Daboll is keeping Wink, but just fired Kevin Drew, outside linebackers coach. Wink is drafting his resignation call to the Giants GM as we speak. When Daboll told Wink that what he's doing, he stood up and, used some swear words. And again, that said he has no idea how to run an offense. And I don't know if this is true, but this was reported by the New York Post. You could definitely go check it out. But yeah, it was very interesting to see the statistics lined up this year, with Wink Martindale. He's expected to be in high demand this offseason. I'll miss him a lot. Like I said, players loved and respected him. Bobby Okereke and Xavier McKinney both rewarded in the post-game locker room celebration yesterday, or speech, I should say, for playing 100% of the total snaps this season. And we know Bobby Okereke, Micah McFadden, Isaiah Simmons, all Wink Martindale guys. Deonte Banks is a Wink Martindale guy. His defense is not replicated very easily, which makes me question the future of this defense now that Wink Martindale has resigned. You got a lot of them out of Micah McFadden. Jason Pinnock as well as another guy that really shined this year. Dane Belton, a draft pick designed for this defense. What is going to happen now? Will McKinney stay? Who will the new DC be? There's so many questions. As you can see, I'm jumping all over the place because this is not ideal to see Wink go. But I did think that Nick Filato, Giants reporter, did a really good job of summing this up. In 2022, the Giants were 13th in sacks as a defense. They were also 6th in pressure rate. This year, they were 28th in sacks. So they went down from 13th to 28th. And in pressure rate, they went down from 6th to 28th. Or 6th to 21st, pardon. Run yards allowed also declined. The Giants have historically an outstanding run defense. They sucked in that category this year. They were 27th in 2022 and 29th this year. And then in points against, the biggest category, 17th in 2022, 26th in 2023. Take with that what you will. The turnover numbers did improve for Wink's scheme. Passing yards allowed improved as well. You could argue that, they gave up more points because the Giants offense didn't, they gave opposing offenses a short field, whether it be turnovers or punts. You could argue that for sure. But I think the bigger question here is who is going to take over? Is Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll going to hire a DC that is similar to Wink Martindale so they could keep a lot of the players that are in this scheme right now? That's my question. It's rumored that Leslie Frazier could be an option, but he is more of a, 4-3 guy rather than a 3-4. Antonio Pierce is a name that people have thrown around. Not a huge fan of him, but, that could be a name. I'm not so sure what's going to happen and who the Giants will ultimately hire as a DC. But Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen must have fired these two assistants knowing that Wink would resign following this. Giants refused to fire Wink and let Wink, make the decision himself to leave. And it is very sad. But ultimately, I guess it was the right move to part ways. Giants also lost running backs coach earlier in the season, Jeff Nixon, who will be the offensive coordinator at Syracuse. So now the Giants will have a new running backs coach once again next season. They went from DeAndre Smith to Jeff Nixon, now to somebody else. And the Panthers have also requested to interview New York Giants assistant GM Brandon Brown. Brandon Brown came in, was hired by Joe Schoen and company in 2022. He spent the last 2 years as the assistant GM. He did get some interviews last year, but he did not ultimately get hired. It'll be interesting to see what he does. I think he's done a good job assisting in Joe Schoen thus far. But overall, that's pretty much the recap of the day. The Giants have let 4 assistant coaches go. Wink Martindale has resigned. That's 5 assistants lost in the last 24+ hours. And folks, it's safe to say the 2024 New York Giants coaching staff will look very, very different, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Folks, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, comment, feel free, offer your thoughts. Who do you think the next defensive coordinator will be? The next O-line coach? I'd be happy to hear that. Maybe you might want Mike Munchak or somebody else. We'll see, but appreciate you all. Until then, make sure to subscribe to us on Big Blue Avenue, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, you name it, we're there. Appreciate all the support. Excited to bring you more off-season content. We'll preview the off-season Wednesday on our live stream. But, folks, we'll catch you all soon. Without further ado, let's go Big Blue.